Queen Shivara stood in the center of her throne room, watching the energy shields flicker and fade. Outside the massive crystal windows, she could see the dark shapes of enemy ships circling like predators. The Kraltith had come, and they had come to destroy everything. Her hands trembled as she gripped the armrest of her throne. The beautiful blue crystal that made up her body seemed to dim with each passing moment. Around her, 12 royal guards stood in formation, their weapons ready. But Shivara could see the fear in their faces. They all knew the truth. They were going to die here. "Your Majesty," Captain Velma said, his voice tight. "The last transport ship is ready. We must evacuate now." Shivara shook her head. "No, there are still 40,000 people in the underground shelters. The extraction codes are locked to my biological signature. If I leave, they cannot open the doors. They will be trapped. Then we send the codes remotely. The Kraltev have jammed all communications." Shivara interrupted. Her voice was calm, but inside, terror clawed at her heart. "I must stay until rescue arrives. Until every last citizen is safe." The Valari Empire had stood for 10,000 years. Her people had never known war like this. They were artists, philosophers, scientists. They studied the mysteries of energy and light. They did not build weapons. They did not train soldiers. And now they were paying the price. The Kraltith swarm had appeared 6 months ago from the dark space between galaxies. No one knew where they came from. They consumed everything in their path, turning peaceful worlds into dead husks. 12 Valari colonies had already fallen. Billions dead. Billions more assimilated into the horrible hive mind of the swarm. A massive explosion rocked the palace. Shivara stumbled, catching herself against her throne. The shields were at 15%. Maybe less. "They are breaking through the east wall," one of the guards reported. "Thousands of them. We cannot hold." Shivara closed her eyes. She thought of her people huddled in the shelters below, waiting for salvation that would never come. She thought of her mother, the previous queen, who had died believing the universe was fundamentally good. How wrong they had been. Another explosion. The shields dropped to 10%. "Your Majesty, please," Velmoth begged. "Your life is more important than—" The shield collapsed entirely. For a moment, everything was silent. Then the windows shattered inward, and the screaming began. Kraltith warriors poured into the throne room like a black tide. They were horrible things, part machine and part organic, with too many limbs and eyes that glowed red. They moved with terrifying speed, their weapons firing bolts of dark energy. The royal guards opened fire. Blue energy beams cut through the first wave of attackers, but more kept coming. Always more. Shivara raised her hands and channeled her power. Crystal spears formed in the air around her and shot forward, impaling a dozen Kraltith. But she was exhausted. Her power was nearly spent. She had been channeling energy into the shields for hours, trying to buy time. A guard fell. Then another. Velmoth stood beside her, firing his weapon until it overheated and died in his hands. He drew his ceremonial blade, a weapon that had never been used in actual combat, and prepared to die. This was the end. Then the ceiling exploded. A spacecraft, small and battered, came crashing through the palace dome. It was on fire, trailing smoke and sparks. It hit the floor hard, skidding across the polished crystal and crushing Kraltith warriors beneath it. The side door blew open. 3 figures emerged from the smoke. They wore strange armor, dark and practical, covered in dents and burn marks. They carried weapons Shivara had never seen before, and they moved like nothing she had ever witnessed. The first one, a male with dark skin and sharp eyes, raised his weapon and opened fire. The sound was deafening. Not energy beams, but solid projectiles that tore through Kraltith bodies with brutal efficiency. The other two spread out, their weapons barking death. "Secure the queen," the first one shouted. "Peterson, left flank. Rodriguez, watch our six." They fought like demons. No, worse than demons. They fought like beings who had been born for war and had never stopped fighting. One of them threw a small metal sphere that exploded in a ball of fire. Another used a blade that glowed with heat, cutting through Krall-Tith armor like it was paper. Within minutes, the throne room was clear. Bodies littered the floor. The strange warriors took up defensive positions around Shivara and her surviving guards. The first warrior approached. He removed his helmet, and Shivara saw his face clearly. He was young, probably young even by human standards, with dark hair and eyes that had seen too much death. There was blood on his face, but he was smiling. "Your Majesty," he said, in accented but understandable galactic standard. "Captain Marcus Chun, Earth Expeditionary Corps. We picked up your distress signal. We're here to get you out." Shivara stared at him. Humans. She had heard of them. A new species barely 50 years into space travel. Young and aggressive and completely unpredictable. "How many are you?" she asked. "3 now," Marcus said, his smile fading. "We were 8 when we started. This is Peterson and Rodriguez. The rest didn't make it through your atmosphere. 3 humans against thousands of Krall-Tith. Then we are already dead," Velmoth said flatly. Marcus looked at the Valari captain. Then he looked at the bodies on the floor. Then he looked back at Shivara. "Ma'am, I'm not going to lie to you. This situation is bad. Really bad. But here's the thing about humans. We're really good at making bad situations work in our favor." He checked his weapon, a practiced motion. "How long until your people can evacuate those shelters?" 6 hours, Shivara said. "Maybe less if we can restore partial power. But the Krall-Tith will overrun us in minutes." Marcus nodded slowly. He looked at his 2 companions. Some kind of silent communication passed between them. Then he turned back to Shivara. "Then I guess we hold this room for 6 hours." "That is impossible," Velmoth said. Marcus grinned. It was not a nice expression. It was the grin of a predator who had found prey. "Your Majesty, let me tell you something about humanity. We specialize in impossible." Outside, the Krall-Tith were regrouping. Thousands of them. Maybe tens of thousands. They would come again, and they would not stop until everything was dead. But inside the throne room, 3 humans checked their weapons and prepared to do something insane. Shivara felt something she had not felt in months. Hope. Shivara had never seen anything like the way humans fought. The Valari way of combat was elegant, precise, and defensive. They used energy shields and long-range weapons. They fought from a distance, with calculated strategies that minimized risk. Humans did not fight like that at all. Marcus stood at the main entrance, his weapon roaring. Empty shells flew from his gun, scattering across the floor. Beside him, Rodriguez was on one knee, firing in controlled bursts. Peterson had climbed onto a broken pillar and was throwing those terrible explosive spheres into the masses of Krall-Tith pushing through the doorway. "Reloading," Marcus shouted. "Covering." Rodriguez responded immediately. They moved like parts of a single organism. When one stepped back, another stepped forward. They talked constantly, shouting information and warnings to each other. It was chaotic and loud, and somehow it worked. The Krall-Tith fell in heaps. Their bodies created barriers that slowed the ones behind them. The humans used this, firing into the bottleneck, turning the entrance into a killing ground. But there were so many. For every 10 that fell, 20 more pushed forward. "Your Majesty," Marcus called without taking his eyes off the enemy. "Can you do that crystal spear thing again?" Shivara was shocked. In the middle of combat, he was asking her to fight? Queens did not fight. They commanded. They led from safety. But there was no safety anymore. She raised her hands and focused. Her power was returning slowly. Crystal spears formed in the air, smaller than before, but sharp and deadly. She sent them flying. They struck true, impaling Kraltith warriors. Outstanding. Marcus grinned. Peterson, did you see that? We got a mage queen. Saw it, boss. Peterson shouted back. That beats the hell out of our last mission. They were joking. In the middle of a battle for survival, they were making jokes. Shivara did not understand humans at all. The wave finally broke. The Kraltith retreated, leaving hundreds of bodies behind. Marcus immediately started checking his ammunition. How much do you have left? He asked his companions. 40%, Rodriguez said. 30, Peterson reported. Used most of my grenades too. Marcus nodded. Right, we conserve ammo. Controlled bursts only. Your Majesty, how are your people holding up? Shivara looked at her guards. 5 of them were dead now. The remaining 7 looked exhausted and terrified. But they were still standing. We will fight, Velmoth said quietly. We are not warriors like you, human. But we will not abandon our queen. Good man, Marcus said. He walked over and clasped Velmoth's shoulder. Listen, I need you to spread your people around the room. Cover the side entrances. Don't try to match our fire rate. Just make your shots count. Can you do that? Velmoth nodded. Marcus looked at Shivara. Your Majesty, I need you to save your strength. Only use your powers when we're being overrun. We're going to need you later. For what? She asked. I'm working on that, Marcus said. But first, we need to survive the next 5 hours. The second wave came faster than expected. This time, the Kraltith tried multiple entrances at once. The Valari guards fired from their positions, their blue energy beams cutting down attackers. But they were not trained for this kind of sustained combat. A guard named Shivan took a hit. The dark energy bolt tore through his shoulder, and he fell with a cry. Shivara moved to help him, but Marcus was already there. Stay down, Marcus ordered. He pulled a medical kit from his belt and sprayed something on the wound. This will hurt, but it'll keep you alive. Can you still shoot? Shivan nodded, his face tight with pain. Then get back in position. Marcus did not coddle. He did not waste time with comfort. He just kept everyone fighting. And somehow, it worked. The guards began to mirror his confidence. They fought harder. The second wave broke. Then the third came. And the fourth. Time became a blur of gunfire and explosions, and the screams of dying Kraltith. Shivara lost track of how long they fought. Her body ached. Her power was nearly gone. But the humans never stopped. Never slowed. Rodriguez took a hit to her leg. She barely flinched. She tied a tourniquet around it and kept firing. Peterson's armor was cracked and smoking. He switched to his sidearm when his main weapon overheated. Marcus was bleeding from a dozen small wounds. His armor was scorched and dented. But he kept moving, kept fighting, kept shouting encouragement to everyone around him. During a brief lull, Shivara approached him. You are injured. I'm fine, Marcus said, checking his weapon. You are not fine. You need medical attention. Marcus looked at her. His face was covered in dirt and blood and sweat. Your Majesty, I've been shot, stabbed, burned, and blown up more times than I can count. This is just another Tuesday for me. Your species is insane, she said. He laughed. Actually laughed. Yeah, that's what everyone says. You know what else they say? They say we're impossible to kill. They say we don't know when to quit. They say we're too stupid to know when we're beaten. He met her eyes. They're right. We are too stupid to quit. That's our secret. Why did you come here? Shivara asked. Why risk your life for people you do not know? Marcus was quiet for a moment. About 100 years ago, Earth was invaded. Species called the Krill. They wanted our water and our minerals. Didn't care about us at all. We fought, but we were alone. No allies. No one came to help us. He checked his ammunition. We won eventually, but it cost us 3 billion lives. 3 billion people died because we were alone. He looked at her. I came here because no one should have to face extinction alone. I came because 40,000 people are counting on us. I came because it's the right thing to do. He smiled. Also, orders are overrated. You disobeyed orders to come here? Yes, ma'am. I'll probably be court-martialed if I survive. He shrugged. Worth it? Shivara felt something strange in her chest. Humans were bizarre and violent and reckless. But they were also honorable in a way she had never seen before. This man had thrown away his career, his life, everything, for strangers. Thank you, she said quietly. Thank me when we're all still alive, Marcus said. Another explosion shook the palace. But this one was different. Bigger. Closer. Oh no, Peterson said, looking out the broken windows. Shivara followed his gaze and felt her heart stop. A massive crawl-tith biotitan was approaching. It was 3 stories tall, a horrible fusion of flesh and metal. Its arms ended in plasma cannons. Its body was covered in armor plating. Boss, Rodriguez said quietly. We can't fight that thing. Marcus stared at the biotitan. For the first time since he arrived, Shivara saw doubt in his eyes. Then he straightened. Peterson, Rodriguez on me. We're gonna bring that thing down. How? Peterson asked. Marcus pulled something from his belt. A small cylinder with a red light. We overload our ship's reactor core. Turn it into a bomb. We lure that thing close and we blow it. That will kill us too, Rodriguez said. Marcus looked at his team. I know, but if we don't stop it, everyone dies. This way, at least the queen and her people have a chance. No, Shivara stepped forward. I cannot ask you to. You're not asking, Marcus said gently. We're volunteering. It's what humans do. Peterson and Rodriguez exchanged glances. Then they both nodded. Let's go kill a titan, Peterson said. They ran toward the wreckage of their ship. Shivara wanted to stop them, but she could not move. She could only watch as 3 humans ran towards certain death to save people they had just met. This was humanity. This was what they were, and she understood now why the galaxy should be grateful they had chosen to be protectors instead of conquerors. Shivara watched from the throne room as a ball of white fire consumed the biotitan and everything around it. The shockwave shattered what remained of the palace windows. She threw up a crystal barrier to protect her guards from the blast. When the light faded, there was a crater where the titan had stood. Smoke rose into the air. The ground was scorched black. For a long moment, there was silence. Then 3 figures emerged from the smoke, walking slowly. Marcus was in the lead, supporting Rodriguez. Peterson was limping badly, but still moving. They were alive. Impossible, Velmoth whispered. But Shivara was learning that nothing was impossible for humans. They made it back to the throne room. Rodriguez collapsed immediately. Her leg wound was worse than Shivara had realized. Peterson sat down heavily, breathing hard. Marcus was the only one still standing, but barely. Report, he said, his voice hoarse. 4 guards left, Velmoth said. Ammunition low. We have maybe 2 more waves in us. Maybe. Marcus nodded. He looked at his watch. 4 hours until the shelters can evacuate. We're not going to make it. Then what do we do? Shivara asked. Marcus looked around the throne room, his eyes thoughtful. Then he looked at Shivara. Your Majesty, tell me about your powers. What are you capable of? Shivara was confused by the question. I can manipulate crystal and energy. All Valari can, to some degree. But as queen, my power is stronger. I can channel large amounts of energy, shape it, direct it. How large? I have powered the shields of this entire palace for hours, she said. But it exhausted me. Marcus walked to the center of the room. He knelt down and touched the floor. It was made of pure crystal, like everything in Valari architecture. The entire palace was one massive crystalline structure. What if you channeled energy through the palace itself? Marcus asked. Could you create some kind of, I don't know, energy pulse? Something that would hit everything in range? Shivara considered. Theoretically, yes. The palace is designed to conduct energy. If I used the main power core and channeled through the crystal structure, I could create a resonance wave. It would be like a ripple spreading through water, but with destructive force. Would it kill the Crawl Tith? It would shatter them, Shivara said. Their biomechanical bodies cannot handle that kind of resonance. But what? The power core is deep in the palace, and someone would need to stay there to maintain the reaction. The energy buildup would be unstable. It would require constant manual adjustment. She paused. That person would not survive the pulse. Marcus was quiet. Then he nodded. Then that's what we do. We get you to the core. You charge it up. I stay behind and keep it stable. You get back up here and trigger the pulse. Everything in the capital dies except us. You would die, Shivara said. Yeah, Marcus agreed. But everyone else lives. 40,000 people. Your guards. My team. You. He smiled. Good trade. No, Shivara said firmly. I am the queen. It should be me who stays. With respect, Your Majesty, no. Your people need you to rebuild. They need a leader who survived this. Who can tell them what happened here. Who can make sure it never happens again. Marcus looked at Peterson and Rodriguez. Besides, my team is in no shape to fight through the palace. But you are. You still have power. We get you there. You do your thing, and you get out. I forbid this, Shivara said. Marcus laughed, but it was gentle. You can't forbid me, Your Majesty. I'm not one of your subjects. I'm just a human who made a choice. He stood up and faced her. This is what humans do. We sacrifice. We give our lives so others can live. It's in our nature. We can't help it. Tears formed in Shivara's eyes. In Valari, tears were crystals, tiny shards of light. I do not want you to die. I know, Marcus said softly, but I'm going to anyway. Let's make it count. They prepared quickly. Rodriguez and Peterson would stay in the throne room with the remaining guards. They would hold the position until the pulse was triggered. Marcus and Shivara would go to the core. Before they left, Rodriguez grabbed Marcus's arm. Boss, are you sure about this? No, Marcus said, but I'm doing it anyway. He looked at his two teammates. You two get out when this is done. Get back to Earth. Tell them we did our job. We will, Peterson promised. They embraced quickly, awkwardly, the way soldiers do when they know it is the last time. Then Marcus and Shivara ran into the depths of the palace. The corridors were dark. Power was failing throughout the structure. They could hear Kralteth moving in the walls, searching for them. But Shivara knew these halls. She had walked them since childhood. She knew every shortcut, every hidden passage. They fought when they had to. Marcus's gun was almost out of ammunition, but he made every shot count. Shivara used her power to create barriers and weapons. Together, they carved a path deeper into the palace. Tell me about Earth, Shivara said as they ran. Why? Marcus asked. Because I want to understand. I want to know what kind of world creates people like you. Marcus was quiet for a moment. Earth is complicated. We have beauty and ugliness. We have great art and terrible wars. We're not special. We're just stubborn. We refuse to quit, refuse to die, refuse to accept that anything is impossible. He fired at a crawltith that emerged from a side passage. My grandmother used to say that humans are like weeds. You can burn us, poison us, try to kill us, but we always grow back. You speak of your species like it is a curse, Shivara observed. Sometimes it is, Marcus admitted. But right now, it's exactly what you need. They reached the core chamber. It was massive, a cathedral of crystal and light. At the center was a sphere of pure energy, pulsing with power. This was the heart of the palace, the source that had kept it floating in the air for 1,000 years. Marcus immediately went to the control panels. Okay, Your Majesty, tell me what to do. Shivara showed him the systems. It was complicated, but Marcus learned fast. Within minutes, he understood the basics. I'll need about 10 minutes to channel enough power, Shivara said. Then another 5 to get back to a safe distance. Can you hold the reaction stable for 15 minutes? I'll hold it for however long you need, Marcus promised. Shivara moved to the energy sphere and placed her hands on it. Power flooded into her body, raw and overwhelming. She began to channel it, directing it into the crystalline structure of the palace. The walls began to glow. Marcus worked the controls, adjusting energy flows, balancing reactions. The sphere became brighter, hotter. Shivara could see sweat pouring down his face. The temperature in the room was rising. Marcus, she said as she worked, I want you to know something. In my culture, we have a tradition. When someone saves a Valari's life, we create a bonding crystal. It is a mark of eternal honor, a connection that lasts beyond death. That's nice, Marcus said, focused on his work. Shivara reached into her chest, into the very essence of her being, and pulled out a small crystal. It glowed with soft blue light. I am creating one for you now. Will you accept it? Marcus looked at the crystal. Then he looked at her. I'm honored, Your Majesty. Really. The one I, die before I can use it? The crystal will survive, Shivara said. And so will you. In memory. In the stories we tell. In the future, we build because of what you did here. She pressed the crystal into his hand. You will never be forgotten, Marcus-chan. Marcus closed his fingers around the crystal. He smiled, and it was genuine. Never thought I'd be remembered on an alien world. Not just remembered, Shivara said. Immortalized. You gave us a future. The energy was almost ready. The palace was vibrating with power. Shivara could feel it building, reaching critical mass. You need to go, Marcus said. Now, Shivara hesitated. She did not want to leave. She wanted to stay, to thank him properly, to tell him everything she was feeling. But there was no time. Goodbye, Marcus-chan, she said. Goodbye, Your Majesty, Marcus replied. Now run. Shivara ran. Energy pulsed through every wall, every floor, every surface. The crystal structure was alive with power. Behind her, she could hear crawltith dying, their bodies unable to withstand the resonance building in the air. She burst into the throne room. Everyone, take cover! Peterson and Rodriguez immediately moved behind the most solid cover they could find. The 4 remaining Valari guards created energy shields. Shivara joined them, adding her power to their protection. In the core chamber far below, Marcus worked frantically. The energy sphere was unstable now, fluctuating wildly. Marcus's hands flew over the controls, making constant adjustments. The heat was incredible. His armor was melting in places. The skin on his hands was blistering. But he held it. He kept the reaction stable. "Come on," he muttered to himself. "Come on, just a little longer." He thought about his life, about Earth, about his family. His mother had cried when he joined the military. His father had been proud. His sister had called him an idiot for volunteering for the Expeditionary Corps. They were right. He was an idiot. But he was an idiot who had saved 40,000 people. That had to count for something. The energy reached critical mass. Marcus pressed the final sequence. "Sorry, Mom," he whispered. The world became white. In the throne room, Shivara triggered the pulse. She reached out with her power and released all the energy at once. It exploded outward from the palace core in a wave of crystalline resonance. The wave moved at the speed of light. It passed through walls, through floors, through everything. Where it touched the Kralteth, they shattered. Their biomechanical bodies could not handle the frequency. They literally fell apart, turning to dust and fragments. In seconds, every Kralteth in the capital was dead. Thousands of them. Tens of thousands. The invasion force was annihilated. In orbit, the Kralteth fleet saw their ground forces disappear from sensors. Confused and afraid, they began to retreat. The tide had turned. But in the core chamber, Marcus was dying. The energy pulse had been too much. It had transformed everything at the molecular level. Marcus felt his body changing, crystallizing. There was no pain, not anymore. Just a strange, peaceful feeling. He looked down at his hands and saw them turning to crystal, blue, and beautiful, like the Volari themselves. The transformation spread up his arms, across his chest. He could feel it happening to his legs, his torso, his face. His last thought was simple. They're safe now. Then everything stopped. Shivara raced back down to the core chamber. She knew it was too late, but she had to try. She had to see if there was any chance. The doors were melted shut. She used her power to tear them open. The core chamber was destroyed. The walls were cracked and scorched. The energy sphere was dark, burned out. And in the center, standing at the controls, was a statue. It was Marcus. Or it had been Marcus. Now it was crystal, perfect, and eternal. His body had been transformed at the molecular level, turned into the same substance as the Volari themselves. Every detail was preserved. His face, his hands, even the expression of determination in his eyes. He had become part of the palace. Part of Volari history, eternal. Shivara fell to her knees. The crystal tears poured down her face more than she had ever cried. "I am so sorry," she whispered. "I am so sorry." She stayed there for a long time. Above, rescue ships were arriving. The Kralteth fleet was in full retreat. The shelters were opening, and 40,000 people were emerging into the light. Her people were saved. But the cost had been so high. Human soldiers arrived first. They had fought through the orbital defenses to reach the palace. When they found Peterson and Rodriguez in the throne room, there was shouting and relief. But when they asked about Marcus, the two soldiers went quiet. They led their commanders down to the core chamber. The human admiral stood before the crystal statue for a long time. He was an old man, scarred and hard, someone who had seen 1,000 battles. But when he looked at Marcus, tears ran down his face. "He disobeyed orders to come here," the admiral said quietly. "He saved us all," Shivara said. "That sounds like Marcus." The admiral touched the crystal hand. "Permission to take his body home, Your Majesty?" Shivara had expected this. But when she heard the words, she realized she could not agree. "No," she said softly. "He stays here. He is part of our history now. Part of our future. We will build a memorial around him." We will make sure every Valari child learns his name and what he did." The Admiral looked at her. Then he nodded slowly. He'd like that. Marcus always said he wanted to make a difference. Guess he did. In the days that followed, the galaxy learned what had happened at Etherkeen. The story spread like fire. A human captain who had disobeyed orders to save an alien queen. A sacrifice that had turned the tide of the war. A warrior who had become a legend. The Krall-Teth invasion collapsed. Without their main fleet, they could not sustain their offensive. Within weeks, they retreated back to the dark space they had come from. The sector was saved. But the Valari Empire was changed forever. They had learned that peace alone was not enough. That sometimes survival required warriors. That the universe was more dangerous than they had ever imagined. Shivara stood in the ruins of her palace, looking at the crystal statue. Construction crews were already working, building a new throne room around Marcus. He would stand forever at its center, a guardian in death as he had been in life. "Your Majesty," Velmoth said softly, "the memorial designers need your approval for the inscription." Shivara looked at the proposed words carved in the crystal base. Captain Marcus Chun. Human. Guardian of Etherkeen. He gave everything so that we might have tomorrow. "It is perfect," Shivara said. "Add one more line. He taught us that honor is not in blood or species, but in the choices we make." Velmoth nodded and left to relay the message. Shivara placed her hand on the crystal statue. For just a moment, she thought she felt warmth. A presence. Something that said everything was going to be okay. "Thank you," she whispered. "Thank you for showing us what we could be." The sun set over the capital. In the shelters, families reunited. In orbit, human and Valari ships worked together to clear debris and establish defenses. A new alliance was being born, forged in fire and sacrifice. And at the center of it all, a crystal warrior stood watch, forever protecting the people he had saved with his life. 40,000 people owed him their lives. But more than that, an entire civilization owed him their future. Marcus Chun had come to save a queen. Instead, he had saved an empire. And in doing so, he had changed the galaxy forever. The new palace of Etherkeen stood tall against the sky, more beautiful than the old one had ever been. But at its heart was something the old palace had never had, a crystal statue of a human warrior, forever standing guard. Every day, people came to see it. Valari citizens brought flowers and gifts, leaving them at the base of the statue. Children sat at its feet while their parents told them the story of the day humanity saved the queen. Visitors from across the galaxy made pilgrimages to stand before the guardian of a Queen dot, and every single day, without fail, Queen Shivara came to visit. She was older now. Her crystalline body had deepened in color, showing her age. She moved more slowly than she once had, but her eyes were still bright, still sharp, still filled with purpose. She placed her hand on the statue's chest, as she had done every day for 50 years. "Hello, Marcus," she said softly. "I have much to tell you today." She settled into her chair, the one she had placed here permanently years ago. The human ambassador visited yesterday. They are proposing a new joint military academy. Can you imagine? Humans and Valari training together, learning from each other. Your Admiral Morrison said you would have loved it. She smiled. He is old now, like me, but he still remembers you. They all do. Around the memorial chamber, life continued. Valari engineers worked alongside human technicians, repairing systems and upgrading defenses. This was normal now. Humans and Valari, working as one. The alliance Marcus had died to protect had become one of the strongest in the galaxy. The Krall-Teth have not returned, Shivara continued. 50 years, and they remain in dark space. Some think they will never come back. But we remain vigilant. We learned that lesson well. She paused. We learned many lessons from you, Marcus. Footsteps echoed in the chamber. Shivara turned to see a group of young Valari students entering with their teacher. They gasped when they saw the statue, as all children did the first time. Is that really him? A small girl asked. Yes, the teacher said. That is Captain Marcus Chun. He saved our queen and 40,000 of our people. He gave his life so we could live. Was he really human? A boy asked. He was, Shivara said, standing slowly. The children turned to her, their eyes wide. And I was there. I saw everything he did. The children gathered around her, fascinated. This happened often now. Shivara never minded. She would tell the story 1,000,000 times if she needed to. What was he like? The girl asked. Shivara looked at the statue. He was brave. Braver than anyone I have ever known. But he was also kind. He made jokes in the middle of battle. He encouraged my guards when they wanted to give up. He saw the best in everyone, even when everything was falling apart. Was he scared? The boy asked. Yes, Shivara said honestly. He was terrified. But he fought anyway. That is what true courage is. Not the absence of fear, but acting in spite of it. Why did he do it? Another child asked. Why did he save us if we were not his people? This was the question Shivara had been asked 1,000 times. And her answer was always the same. Because he believed that all life is precious. He believed that when someone needs help, you help them. Not because you will gain something. Not because they are your species or your people. But because it is the right thing to do. She looked at the children. That is humanity's greatest gift to us. They taught us that the bonds we choose are as strong as the bonds of blood. The teacher thanked her, and the children left, chattering excitedly. Shivara sat back down. They will remember you, she said to the statue. Every generation will learn your story. You will never be forgotten. A sound made her look up. The human ambassador was approaching, an older woman with gray hair and kind eyes. Ambassador Chun. Your Majesty, Ambassador Chun said, bowing slightly. Sarah, Shivara greeted her warmly. You did not have to come. I wanted to, Sarah said. She looked at the statue. Hello, Uncle Marcus. Sarah Chun was Marcus's niece. She had been just a child when he died. Now she was the human ambassador to the Valari Empire, following in her uncle's footsteps in her own way. I have news, Sarah said. Our scientists have made a breakthrough. Shivara looked at her sharply. Tell me. They have been studying the crystalline structure of the statue for years, with your permission. They found something remarkable. Sarah pulled out a data pad. There are energy patterns inside the crystal. Very faint, almost undetectable. But they are there. And they are not random. Shivara felt her heart skip. What are you saying? We think... Sarah chose her words carefully. We think some part of his consciousness survived. Not life as we know it, but something. An echo, a memory. Something that responds to energy input. Show me, Shivara demanded. Sarah activated a device. It sent a pulse of energy toward the statue. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, very faintly, the crystal began to glow. Just a little. Just enough. Shivara stood, her hand shaking. Marcus? The glow pulsed once. Like a heartbeat. Tears streamed down Shivara's face. You are still here. All this time, you have been here, listening. The glow pulsed again. We cannot restore him, Sarah said gently. This is not life. It is just an echo. But it is something. He is still watching over you, Your Majesty. Like he promised. Shivara approached the statue and placed both hands on it. She channeled her energy into the crystal, carefully, gently. The statue glowed brighter dot, and for just a moment, she felt it. A presence. A consciousness. Not speaking, not thinking, but aware. Protecting. Guarding. You kept your promise, Shivara whispered. You are still protecting us. The years that followed were different. Now that they knew Marcus's consciousness was somehow present in the crystal, the Valari treated the statue with even greater reverence. But more than that, they celebrated it. Children came not just to learn, but to say hello to the guardian. Adults came to share their joys and sorrows, knowing somehow he was listening. The statue became more than a memorial. It became a symbol, a reminder that heroes never truly die, that sacrifice is never forgotten, that the bonds between species, forged in fire and sealed with blood, are unbreakable. The Human-Valari alliance grew stronger every year. Together, they established new colonies, new trade routes, new friendships. When other species asked what made their alliance so strong, they always gave the same answer. It was built on a foundation of sacrifice and trust. It was built by a man who gave everything for people he barely knew. Queen Shivara ruled for another 20 years before finally passing the throne to her daughter. On her last day as queen, she visited the statue one final time. I am retiring today, she told Marcus. My daughter will be queen now. She is strong and wise. She will do well. She paused. But I wanted to tell you first, before anyone else, because you are the reason she has a kingdom to rule. The crystal glowed softly. I will still visit you every day, Shivara promised. That will never change. You are my friend, Marcus. My savior. My hero. She smiled through her tears. Thank you for everything. Thank you for showing us what humanity truly is. Thank you for teaching us to be better. The crystal pulsed warm and steady like a heartbeat. 50 years had passed since the day Marcus Chen died, but his legacy lived on. In the alliance he had forged with his sacrifice. In the 40,000 people he had saved and their descendants. In the lessons he had taught about courage and honor and doing what is right even when it costs everything. And in a crystal statue that glowed with eternal life, forever standing guard over the people he had given his life to protect. The guardian of Etherkin, the human, who became legend. The warrior who saved a queen and changed the galaxy. Outside the palace, the city thrived. Ships from 100 worlds came and went. Humans and Valari worked side by side. Children of both species played together in the parks, learning each other's languages, sharing each other's cultures. A new generation was growing up in a galaxy that Marcus had helped save. They would never know the fear of the Krolteth invasion. They would never know a time when humans and Valari were not allies. They would never know how close they came to extinction, but they would know his name. They would know his story. They would know that once, a human warrior faced impossible odds and chose to fight anyway. Not for glory, not for reward, but because people needed help and he could give it. And in the end, that was all that mattered. That was what it meant to be human. That was what it meant to be a hero. The crystal statue glowed softly in the evening light, a beacon of hope and remembrance. And if you listened very carefully, if you were very still, you could almost hear it. A whisper in the crystal. A voice that would never fade. Nobody left behind. Not even in death. Especially not in death. The guardian watched over them all, now and forever, as he had promised. And the galaxy was better for it.